All right, time for the week that was with Melanie Wilkinson joining us in
Hi.
studio. How we doing?
Good.
It's been a week, right? We missed last week.
We
a
did.
lot of things going on. Of course, Memorial Day last weekend, and a lot of things in York. I know it wasn't a great weekend weather-wise. A lot of clouds and rain. Some things were moved around, right?
They did. Yeah, everything was moved around. I know that Nick Wallenberg, our Veterans Service Officer for York County and Fillmore County, said that in all the years, he's been the officer for maybe 10, 12 years. This was the first time that he ever had to give the keynote speech inside of a building because it was just too miserable.
Yeah, which is rare. I mean, usually it's like hot and
I know.
It's maybe too miserable in late May.
Well,
but it's,
luckily, people did get to see the cemeteries
Yeah.
are just beautiful. And we have to talk, too, about all the work that volunteers do that we don't see. You know, it's like magic when all those beautiful flags just suddenly appear. Well, it doesn't happen by accident, because I know that Nick and his kids and a bunch of different people with veterans organizations in the area get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and they make their way
Yep.
around everywhere.
They had I saw them. They had the forklift, and they were.
Oh, that was
raised-
the Avenue of Flags.
That's the Avenue. Okay,
Yes,
that's something. Okay,
that's
something
different. But
Right,
yes,
right.
but that too.
Yep.
That's a big endeavor.
Yep.
Yeah, all of a sudden there they are, and they stay there until Labor Day.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's not magic either. It took, they had like 2 different teams out. And, that's a big effort. I saw that the fire department was helping them too, like with lights and stuff like that too, to keep them safe. But a lot of work happens. And then, of course, they had to go through all the effort of letting people know on Monday morning that all of these cemetery events were going somewhere else. So they moved, the Greenwood Cemeteries got moved to the Armory. And it was really cool because they waited about 15 minutes just so people, if they hadn't seen it on social or whatever, that they would, if they were out at the cemetery, they figured it out to
Yeah.
come to the Armory.
File in, yeah.
And they got about 80 people here. Yeah. And so that's good. It's probably a little bit higher when it's out at the cemetery just because people are already out there and then they venture over. But it was still really neat. So
That is good.
Yeah.
That is good. And I know, not the best weather weekend.
we needed
but
the rain
we
so
certainly,
bad, but the timing, was too bad. But I know that they left the flags out longer than out at the cemeteries than they planned on because they were going to let Mother Nature try to dry them out.
Yeah.
I don't know what you
know.
would do with hundreds and hundreds of giant soaking wet flags. So as soon as they're dry, they're going to pick them up and off they go.
would probably create quite a mess
wouldn't it be?
in the
I
vehicle
know,
that
I
they're going to
know.
put it in. But
I know.
All right, Melanie Wilkinson in with us, and a recent thing going on here as well. I know the York County, York Chamber, I believe, has been putting on some. They have a schedule now for some town halls that are happening over the month of June, and
Right.
really
And-
for people to kind of find out and learn a little bit about and ask some questions about what's going
Well,
on around the
actually,
community.
they want input. So
Yeah.
this is for the York County Comprehensive Plan. This happens every 10 years. And incidentally, the city is starting theirs also at the very exact same time. But these town halls are for people to talk about what they want to see for the next 10 years in York County. It's really pivotal this time around because we find ourselves thinking about zoning issues that literally did not exist 10 years ago and are not in our comprehensive plan and our zoning regulations now. And so the county commissioners really want people to talk about how they see setbacks and regulations that should be created. Now, of course, we've had this ongoing conversation about solar projects and setbacks and that type of thing. But then they also need to talk about probably other renewable energy projects like wind. What if someone wanted to come in and put in a wind farm?
Right.
Like you've seen, there's like massive ones in northeast Nebraska. This is an interesting thing that nobody thought about until this last week. When it comes to livestock confinements, and I'm not talking just, cattle. What about swine, birds, pheasants, chickens, and these type of things, where now we've seen where the avian flu has actually transferred to other species. Yep. So this question came up this last week when they were giving out conditional permits for a pheasant farm, and there's a swine operation that's not that far away. So that's something that no one talked about 10 years ago, and we don't have zoning regulations that pertain to disease. Everything was based on this odor footprint, so basically smell and the use of manure. Now they have to consider too, what does disease play in this thing also.
Right.
But this is a much bigger scope than just even zoning. They want to talk about, do we want to allow more acreages and residential subdivisions out in the country?
How much, seeing some of those pop up?
Yeah, and how much do you want, ag to be protected? Right. So and they're being really smart about this. They're making it easy for people to come, because there's going to be a whole bunch of different town halls. These are all public comment opportunities. If you have an opinion or you have something you want to say about your county, this is your chance.
Anything goes. Yeah.
I'm gonna give you a really quick list, and they're going to be located all throughout the county.
Some of them, by the way, if you're listening, are next week. So
so this is coming up really fast. Yep. So on June 2nd at 2:00, there will be one at the York Senior Center. Also on the 2nd at 6:00, there will be one at the Hatchery in Henderson. Then on the 3rd. At 6:00, one will be held at Stone Creek Event Center in McCool Junction. On the 6th at 6:00, they'll be at the Gresham Community Hall. June 10th, it will be at the Waco Community Hall at 6. June 11th, Benedict Community Hall at 6:00. And then on the 16th, they'll have the last one at the Cornerstone Event Center at the Fairgrounds in York at 6:00. So they'll be pretty informal. And it's just going to it's a county conversation. Yeah. So it's important to do, because it's going to be 10 years before this is done again. And granted, this will be this process will go on through the rest of the year, but this is a pivotal time now. So if you have something to say, now's the time to say it.
So can you explain the comprehensive plan? Is that different from any other type of?
How do I explain it? Well, it's a giant binder. Yeah, I have the current one sitting in my desk. So, and it's kind of fascinating. Okay, well, it starts out with all these demographics. So they'll update all of our population statistics and all kinds of numbers. Like, did you know that there's 1,100 miles of county roads in York County?
There you go. It's almost like a nice thing for somebody creating some trivia or like a game night. Just look through that thing and you can find some stuff.
And then you get into the whole zoning regulations portion, where this is where regulations are created and live. Granted, they change over time. It's a living, breathing document. But then there's also looking to the future and what the intent is of how we want the county to grow, change, adapt, or stay exactly the same. It's just all about, and then this big document is relied upon when decisions are being made about conditional use permits or allowances of certain things and where things can be placed. And so, it's an important thing. Yeah.
And it's important too, if you're...
And you can read the county's comp plan right now is on the county's website. It's I think it's 183 pages long.
Oh my goodness. And then probably small font.
Well, and then there's graphs and there's all kinds of things. But if you're interested in, like the vision that was 10 years ago, flip to the back third, and it's all there. Gotcha. So,
Gotcha. Well, again, important to check out those dates coming up with those town halls.
And you don't have to stay for hours if you come to a town hall. You don't have to stay forever. They'll just kind of evolve as they do. So
input is certainly welcome for all of that. So Melanie in with us. Melanie, I want you to tell us about now this story. And I should have talked about this right after we were discussing Memorial Day stuff, because this is has to do with a thing going on at the cemetery. Yeah, what is this? Waiting for Papa project.
This is the most interesting story.
Out at the Greenwood Cemetery.
Greenwood Cemetery. Yeah. Okay, so go back 1898.
Okay, yeah, I don't.
127 years ago.
127, yeah, there you go.
There was a man named James.
I could have done that.
There was a man named James Bauer. Now, James Bauer was born in France. He immigrated to America. He was in the Civil War, and like a lot of Civil War veterans, he came to York County and homesteaded. And he was married to Teresa, and they had, I think, 8 kids. So, okay, are you with me so far?
Yeah, typical family around that time, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Well, then 2 of their daughters, Frances and Rose, died young. One was died at childbirth, and the other one, I guess, had appendicitis, is what the documents say. And then Teresa died of gallbladder, something. All of these things are things that in today's world we wouldn't think. Well, anyhow.
Yeah.
So James was absolutely grief-stricken. So, and he was a tinsmith by trade and a farmer, and he was just distraught over the loss of these 3 women in his life. So he asked his brother-in-law, Teresa's brother, who was an artist, to make a painting for him. And so the brother-in-law painted this beautiful painting. It's a little strange, but it's just priceless. Anyway, in the painting are the 3 women, and they're standing, and it's hard to tell now because the painting has gotten so old. Yeah. But they're in like a gloomy rainstorm kind of situation on these rolling hills. But then there's light coming from the clouds, and they're holding these banners that say...
What is this on, by the way? What is this? Is this like a stone or something?
This is on like a
regular print
it's a canvas.
Okay, because it looks... it doesn't look like a canvas.
No.
That's all I was trying to say. But,
and you can see the details in what the women look like, So anyhow, they're all holding banners which collectively say, "We are waiting for Papa." Yeah. Now, I think James meant, they're just waiting for me. I'll be there soon. Well, here's the thing. James lived to be 93 years old. He lived with his daughter Lulu in Benedict all those years. He never remarried.
Apparently, passed away in the maybe the 70s-ish?
I don't know. But I know he was 93.
Sure, yeah.
So, anyhow... He was just so grief-stricken, so he created, being a tinsmith, this monument out at Greenwood Cemetery, and then they placed the painting inside the monument, and then they also put in a little white picket fence, which I think is interesting, around the painting, and they put glass in the opening so you can see into the painting, and the glass is to protect it, obviously, from the elements, and somehow, in Nebraska weather, this thing made it for 125 years. Yeah. I mean, it sat out there facing the west, too. But then our hailstorm came in 2022 and damaged the glass, and that monument is old too. It needs some work. Well, apparently, and I've seen it. I had seen it before. But apparently there's people that go out to this monument and they travel to the cemetery all the time, and they stop there to look at "We're waiting for Papa" painting. And locals have looked at it for decades and decades and decades, and generations know about it. Well, Jane Brogan was out at the cemetery doing something with her mom's grave, and she decided, I better run over and look at the painting, because it's just something that you just do when you go to Greenwood. But when she got there, it was gone, and she panicked. First, she thought, "Oh my God, somebody stole it."
Yeah.
So she ran and found Todd Gardner, who's the caretaker of Greenwood, and he said, "Oh no, I have it." He said it was the hailstorm damaged it. I have it in the shop because I'm trying to keep it safe. But all of this needs a lot of repair work. I don't know what to do. Well, she happened to know some people in the art world, including a lady in Lincoln who's an artist who's been working on that Pershing mural that, how they're trying to preserve that. And she got a hold of her, and the cemetery board gave Jane permission to seek out to see if there's someone who can do work on this painting to preserve it. Well, right now it's in Omaha at a preservation place with the Nebraska Historical Society. And they can repair it. And I mean, if you look at the pictures, it's had 127 years of dirt sifting through, but then
I'll tell you what, that makes it look cool. I'll say all of that like rust and it looks old but when you restore it and then put it back to its original beauty.
Too, Cindy Knuckle, who's on the cemetery board, said a lot of people have noticed that painting is gone, and they're just, everybody felt the same thing.
Holy cow. Yeah.
Oh my God, where did it go? Well, it's safe. It is safe. Now it's going to take $3,000 to repair this. And when I say repair, what they're going to do is they're going to professionally clean it, and they will do things to it to revive it. Yeah. And then they're going to give it a clear coat so that'll help protect it. Meanwhile, Todd is working on repairing the actual structure itself.
The white base, white foundation.
And he's going to fix all of that. So, and then of course today's glass is going to be better than, back in the day. Now there's been some conversation where some people have said, could you put the original, once it's all completed, could you put it in the museum permanently and then put a copy out there? Well, there's the issue of Papa. Papa.
That wasn't the intent.
Intended for that to be out there eternally. Right. Yes, he's gone. They're all gone. Papa, by the way, isn't even buried at Greenwood. I don't know where he's buried. I couldn't find that, but he's not there, which doesn't really matter. But, so that was the intent. But regardless, they're going to save this piece of history that apparently a lot more people knew about this than I did. And I had to do a lot of digging. A lot of this information, too, thanks to some students from UNL who had this as a pet project, just trying to figure out who Papa and these people were, because a lot of people didn't even know. They're just like, who are these people? We're looking at this painting all the time, but who are they? What was their deal? And it turned out, too, that Teresa was a nurse, and back in the day, she would travel long distances when there weren't hardly any nurses or doctors around, and everybody called her Grandma Bauer, and even though she wasn't that old when she died, I was like, you called her grandma, and she wasn't even. I'm
like 30 or
that's
something.
Not very old. But anyway, it's a really neat thing, and it's a really neat project. And they're asking for donations to help because, and really honestly, if you gave $10 and a bunch of people did, the money would quickly come. I don't know. I know the fundraising effort has been underway for a week is all. I haven't talked to them about where they are. But if you want to make a donation, you can do it through the cemetery office.
Gotcha. Yeah. Good stuff. Or I guess there's an email on here too, Greenwood Cemetery at windstream.net. So,
yes.
And then that number 362-4552. You can contact somebody there at the Greenwood Cemetery. That's really cool. Kind of an interesting history lesson. And I wouldn't be surprised if a whole lot of people that live here or are around here had no idea that this was even a thing that was out there, but it has some incredible history behind it.
And for those who panicked over the Memorial Day weekend because your painting's gone, it's okay.
It's good.
It's in safe hands now.
Getting it fixed up.
Yes.
And back and better than ever. Yeah, awesome. Well, this weekend here in York, there's a big car show coming to town.
Big.
The Tour Nebraska 2025. That starts on Friday. By the time this is probably out, it is currently going on.
Yes.
So, 400, almost 500 cars are going to be in town.
I don't remember what they said their final count was. I saw them post something the other day. I thought it said 470.
Yeah.
So it's a lot.
Classic
Again,
vintage
I want to
cars.
be there just to watch them all, see how they file them all out. I just want to see that. So you have to get up early in the morning to see them all leave. But then they'll come back and they'll be here all night.
Well,
so.
they may wake people up. I mean, if they all got to file out, get those engines fired up, man, it might cause a low rumble.
I know they're going to do them in halves too, which is really wild. So
they leave. Is it like they'll leave Friday? They'll be here Friday. They'll head out around to their tour, go to some other stops around the state. They'll come back here,
and then Saturday night they'll be. The way I understand, they'll be parked out there for
So there'll be
plenty of opportunities with them coming and going and coming back here to York. So
100%. And something happening at the museum coming up. When is this history of wedding dresses?
It's really
exhibit?
Neat. Okay, so right now, and I think you've talked to
Carrie,
about the new collection, and it's all on fashion, and it's really neat. And of course, this whole section.
She's telling me about the like these old 1920s Letterman jackets at York High School that they have there. Which I was like, I didn't even think. I thought Letterman jackets started. This is how I guess. Not dumb, how dumb I am, but how I just didn't know. I thought Letterman jackets were like started in the 70s, but no, they go back like 1800s. That's when Letterman jackets started to be a thing. So she was like, "There's 1920s era Letterman jackets." I'm like, "Ooh, I gotta go check those out."
And everything's in remarkably good condition.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So people that had this stuff earlier really took care of their families. Old.
Some old doctor robes, York University doctor robes.
Yes, and then you get into this wedding dress section, which is just fascinating. And may I say, women were a lot smaller.
Back in the day.
I can't understand this. I don't understand. Her and I said, how? She goes, some of these are so small that they were too big for a size 2 mannequin. And you look, and I just don't understand it. And we were trying to
we're talking 1800s maybe?
Well,
early 1900s.
1800s, early 1900s. And they're so little that I can't even picture even children I don't know. And their feet were little. So something happened. I don't know.
Food, fast food came into this world. And
I don't know.
That's probably it. People just got bigger over time.
And then did you also know that wedding dresses weren't always white? Yeah, back in the 1800s.
Green, black.
They were all different colors.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Purple. There's a purple one in there. There's a green, a yellow, blues. Basically, it was whatever was your best dress is what you wore when you got married in the living room, they did back in the day. And then I asked Carrie, I said, why on earth did wedding dresses turn white? And she said it was based on some royal wedding. And I don't know if it was the Queen of it. I don't know who it was. Somebody that everybody knew got married and she wore a white dress, and boom, that's where the tradition came from. Isn't that something?
That is interesting.
I know. So anyway, I'm not an expert on wedding dresses, but Sue McLean is. So Sue McLean lives in Beatrice, but she used to be in Bradshaw, and she owns this company called Yesterday's Lady, and she has vintage dresses, and she knows everything about everything when it comes to wedding dresses. And she's a Nebraska humanities speaker too. So she's going to be there on June 30th at 6:30 to talk about the history of wedding dresses. It's going to be, I don't know that this is your cup of tea necessarily.
It's interesting.
It is interesting.
You can find it interesting, but no, wedding dresses are I got to go see these.
Oh my God. There's this thing on wedding dresses tonight, and I'm going to die if I don't see it.
Hey, you're probably right about that.
I think I would love to. Mm-hmm. And what's really cool too is that Carrie knows, all these dresses. She knows who wore them, stories about who they belong to. Some of the guys' outfits are there too, so that's kind of interesting. But anyway,
were tuxedos were there tuxedos back in the day, or what was that?
The guys, most of their stuff was military.
Okay, yeah.
Military uniforms. Mm-hmm. There is one suit in there, and it's not a tuxedo. I don't know how to explain it.
Is it one of those that you get I don't know, I'm picturing like a 19-teens era, with the high-waisted shorts and like a off-color brown with like a trench coat and then the fedora caps or whatever. That's kind of what I picture.
There's top hats in there.
Yeah.
There's top hats. So they really did. They got dressed up, but yeah. So this is going to be really neat. So I encourage people to go to it. And if you can't go see Sue's presentation, just go to the museum. Because you can just walk through it and see it. And Carrie's there and volunteers are there and they can tell stories and such if you want to talk to them. So there's a lot of really neat things to see in there.
There's the Anna Bemis Palmer Museum here in York. And Carrie does a fantastic job with
she's
all
doing
of that
great.
stuff. So, all right, Melanie, this is a little longer one today.
Okay, well,
with all that,
a lot to say.
All that history there with the Waiting for Papa project, which is that's truly fascinating. Art. I know there's a lot of art enthusiasts around. Stories like this are just, I don't know. It really gets those people going because you got to preserve those kind of things, I would say.
Absolutely.
So hopefully that gets all worked out. I guess anything else to add about things happening?
Just the sun's out.
Yes, finally.
Plants are going to start growing.
Yep.
They've had plenty to drink.
And the rain showed up a little bit, which was nice. So, all right. You have a great rest of your week.
Hey,
We'll talk
you
to you next
too.
week. All right.